this really came out for me in terms of my friendship with Harold, and I wanted to basically just try to repay back all the friendship and times he spent with me. You know, so it was a very personal thing. I didn't have any set plan or any experience really, just learning as I go. But that didn't daunt me. You know, I have a background as ACT UP San Francisco street activist, so you know, you just go with it. But I did want to mention that I did get a lot of inspiration and insight. There's a lot of other people doing a lot of really good work from a lot of other Harold's contemporaries. For the Allen Ginsberg estate, there's Bill Morgan and Peter Hale, who've done an amazing job getting all his book and materials out. Michael Rothenberg, who helped get Philip Whalen's archives and Ira Cohen's archives together, provided me a lot of encouragement. Certainly James Grauerholz and the work he's done in the William Burroughs estate has just really set the bar quite high. And also Raymond Foy is another person that's just, I've really learned from these people, and that's why I kind of wanted to bring up their names here, because I feel that I'm working in tandem or in community with something, even though Michael's the only one of those guys that I've actually met. But what we're doing is we're guardians of the flame. We're keeping a legacy going on, in the sense that Harold came out of being inspired by people that came before him. With Harold specifically, it was like Walt Whitman, Hart Crane, a lot of the visionary poets, D.H. Lawrence. And we keep it alive and we bring it forward for the next generation. And Harold really assists in that because his work is so accessible and it's so relevant. It's not going to date. So for me, you know, I've been very fortunate. I'm queer, and I've spent most of my life fighting AIDS. And now that I find myself, thankfully, in my early 40s, I'm able to look back as a survivor and see how lucky I was to know the people that I've known. And so that also gives me some inspiration and motivation to make sure that these works stay alive. So this book in particular, I was just trying to get something really concise. The last book that came out of Harold was his collected poems. It's a really thick book. It's very comprehensive, but it wasn't very user-friendly. And so this is really trying to reintroduce, kind of reboot Harold, and hopefully get a good response with this, get more of his works out. Because he has a lot of, well, all his books are out of print. And there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been published. And his archives right now are at the Baycroft Library at UC Berkeley. And they've been really helpful in getting permissions and things like that. So I hope that sometime maybe in the next year or two we'll be doing another one of these for another book. Harold had his journals from hitchhiking in Italy in the 50s, his erotic straight sex stories that he wrote for Hustler magazine, on and on and on it can go. So hopefully there'll be more Harold Norse that we can have to share. Oh, and also I want to let folks know there's also a lot of pictures in the book, so you might just want to flip through later. Even if you don't, I encourage you to buy a copy, but even if you don't, you should still look through because there's a lot of good photos that echo the poems as well, and by some really, a lot of his friends, Paul Bowles and Ginsberg and Charles Henry Ford.